He's joining from London. Hello, Mr. Ramashov.
Good morning. That's absolutely a valid point. Back in 1960s, Britain was desperately trying to become a member of European Economic Community, and many European countries, including France, was very much against it. And it was only in 1973 Britain managed to become a member of the European Community, and in 1975 this particular situation was confirmed as a result of the referendum which was held in this country. Back then, Britain wasn't economically very powerful. In the 1960s, Britain was referred to as a sick man of Europe. And also there were lots of political concerns about British membership in the European community. But Britain managed to become a member of the European Community back in 1973. The situation currently is quite different. The idea of European integration and the ideal of European unity are being viewed from a totally different perspective in 2016. Britain is a key ingredient of the European Union. It was a key ingredient of the European Union, and lots of European grandees were rightly assuming that the British exit would start the process of the collapse of the European Union. And that was the main reason why they were so concerned about the Brexit. And I think that their concern is perfectly legitimate. There are a couple of important factors to bear in mind. First of all, Britain, despite the fact that they were trying to become a member of the European Community back in the 1970s, they were always very skeptical about the idea of European unity. The fundamental British argument is that they became a member of the economic union and they want access to a single market. But current European Union, it's something more than single market, and it is something definitely more than economic union. It is becoming very closely integrated political union. And a fundamental British position is that their desire was to have an access to single market, but to become a member of the supranational European state wasn't something which Britons were contemplating back then, and that is not something that they want to be part of now. So fundamentally speaking, Brits were extremely concerned about the sovereignty, because most people that I've been in touch with over the last couple of years were telling me that European Union is becoming something like Soviet Union. Of course, this argument is something which I wouldn't be able to accept, but it is quite clear that if you're a member of the European Union, which is transforming into ever closer union, you lose your sovereignty to a certain extent. Certain European countries like Germany, France, which have historically been in the driving seat of the European Union, could possibly accept it because they are the key elements of the European Union. But Britain is a very peculiar country. First of all, they were accepted as a union at a later stage. The nation states were reluctant to accept it. And Britain, in a true sense of this word, has never been that important to the idea of European Union as France and Germany. So for those reasons, but not for those reasons alone, Britain has historically been skeptical towards the idea of European Union. And what we saw in 2016, yesterday, was a peculiar momentum, and British people voted to leave the Union. Well, as long as ordinary people are concerned, we need to clarify what kind of ordinary people we are talking about. Of course, if we talk about good Europeans, they're people who believe in the idea of European ideal, of course they are deeply concerned, because let us look at this particular problem from a different perspective. This Brexit, the British decision to leave the European Union, could be the beginning of the decline of the European Union. And Britain is a country which is a huge financial contributor to the European project. So Britain is not going to be there. And as long as the interests of ordinary people are concerned, it's a very peculiar moment. They will be very concerned because they wouldn't be able to come to the UK as freely as they used to come in the past. In particular, people from the Eastern Europe are concerned. For example, yesterday, the ambassador of Poland to the United Kingdom was saying that there are about 1 million Polish people in the UK. So what will happen to them? Will they be forced to change their status? Will they be required to acquire a new status in order to be able to stay and work in the UK? So from the perspective of ordinary people, ordinary European people living in the UK, it is a very challenging situation. And they are deeply concerned what will happen in Britain, because let us not forget also this battle over Brexit was happening within the larger spectrum of British politics, but there was one key person who instigated the entire process, and that was Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Independence Party. And this person is quite not aggressive, but very reluctant and very skeptical about all Europeans coming to UK and working here. So the atmosphere in this country in the course of a couple of years is going to be quite tense, and it's not going to benefit ordinary Europeans from the European Union member nation states. I think that if we talk about implications and ramifications of the Brexit, there are a few things to be considered. First of all, as far as EU is concerned, it may start the process of new exit processes. There are quite a huge number of nationalist groups in Italy, in France, in other European countries. So they may take example from this Brexit, and they may also initiate new processes in their own countries. And so it is damaging to the European Union in a very fundamental way. But it is also going to have quite a huge number of global implications, because it's the first time over the last few decades that the process of globalization seems to have been reversed. There was a process of European integration happening over the last few decades, and this process was happening in a very systematic manner. But now Britain, as a very important European country, is leaving the European Union. The process seems to have been reversed. The implications of the Brexit are going to be beyond Britain, definitely beyond the European Union. And there are some people who are arguing that it may have certain implications in terms of the American elections that are going to be held this year. So definitely the implications are there. They are global, and they're going to develop in an incremental manner. I would like to mention one more point in terms of the UK, because the UK is an entity which does contain 4 different constituent elements. So there are some questions, because Scottish people are fundamentally, they voted in favour of staying in the European Union, whereas Northern Irish people also voted in the same manner. It was England and Wales which are voted in favour of leaving the European Union. So there are some questions which have been asked by Scottish nationalists that we do want to be part of the European Union. At the same time, the UK, the country which we are part of, is not going to be part of the European Union. So people are talking about a second Scottish independence referendum. Of course, it's too early to talk about those things, but I think that when we talk about the implications of Brexit, we need to bear in mind 3 important elements. First of all, it may have an impact on the British constitutional arrangement. So we have to bear in mind the relations between Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom. Second, we need to bear in mind the long-term future of the European Union, because the European Union is struggling at this precise moment in time. And quite frankly, British exit is going to make things even more complicated. It is a huge blow to the cohesion of the European Union. I think that that is something we should make absolutely clear. And the third element, as I mentioned earlier, there are going to be implications beyond Europe, and we need to bear in mind to what extent the current American campaign will be influenced by this decision. Well, I think that according to the constitutional arrangement, yes, Britain is the process of leaving the European Union. Of course, you can't leave such a large union over the night because there are lots of legal procedures you have to consider. European Union law is an element, is a part of British legal system. So, of course, there will be a long process which will take about two years. But this process will happen. And I think that it is important to realize that the British Prime Minister, David Cameron, who made it absolutely clear today that he's going to resign by October. So under the British parliamentary system, when the Prime Minister resigns, a new leader of the incumbent party, the party which is in charge of the country, is becoming a prime minister. So it's widely expected that either Boris Johnson or Theresa May will replace David Cameron by October. So there will be no problem in terms of the cohesion of the political leadership. And some people are talking about general elections to be held. I very much doubt that this is going to happen, because the elections, general elections, were in 2015, and the Conservatives have got an overall majority. And it is a normal practice under the British parliamentary system for a prime minister to be replaced by a new leader of the party. It happened in 2007 when Tony Blair resigned and Gordon Brown became a prime minister. It happened in 1990 when Margaret Thatcher resigned and John Major became prime minister. So I do not expect any elections before 2020. I think the process is going to be quite challenging for Britain. And the pound is suffering hugely but it was something quite expected, and people are the sources are saying that the pound wasn't as weak as it is now since 1980s, and it's very true. But it is widely expected that this short period of uncertainty will finish in the fullness of time, and David Cameron will stay in power till October. Then he will be replaced by a new leader, and by October, Britain is going to be back to normality.
I'm very grateful for your interview. Thank you very much for replies to the questions.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.